Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 27 of the Tait podcast. Today I am speaking to a fellow comic, but before I introduce him, I just wanted to give a plug to my good mate Aidan Nicholson's podcast. It's called Aidan Meets Interesting People. If you guys are listeners of my podcast, before this episode, you will have heard him on episode 21. The Tait Talks podcast, where he was chatting about living in Korea, the good Korea, and China for about 5 years in China and 18 months in Korea. So his podcast, as I said, is called Aidan Meets Interesting People. I think it's a lot like mine. He's done 5 episodes right now. He's spoken to a musician, a motorbike racer, a tattoo artist, a person who did like big mural artwork, and a comedian with mental health issues, which is pretty much every comedian anyway, so I didn't have to put that. But today I am speaking to Dan Frater. Welcome to the show, mate.
G'day, mate. How's it going? Nice. You said my name right. Thank you.
Yes, we went through it a few times.
Yeah,
so
we did, yeah.
I'm glad I got it right. You're a comedian. How long have you been doing it for?
So I started in September 2019, I suppose.
Yep. So
because
18-ish months or something like that.
Yes, yeah, but COVID, you know, and because I was over in Canada when I started, and so I did about 7 months. Then COVID hit, we got shut down for a few months, and then come back for a month or two, but then we got shut back down again because COVID was a lot worse there than it was here.
And you had to come home because of COVID? Like you still had visa left?
My visa, so I come home. Okay, so I keep telling everyone I was there for 2 years. I was there for like a year and 10 and a half months.
Okay.
But my visa was running out, and I was like, I don't want to get stuck over in Canada, not being able to legally work, and just sort of like, because my money was desperately low.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make money in British Columbia.
Yes.
And prices of living are expensive. So yeah, I just sort of decided to come home. I initially decided to stay because I didn't have enough money to buy the ticket. But also, I was one of those people who's like, oh yeah, we'll give it a month, the whole world will lock down and we'll be right. And then it turns out people didn't take it. They didn't realize how bad it was going to be. So yes. I got stuck there. Luckily, I worked all through the pandemic. The only reason I stopped is because I quit because I was trying to get home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have to lock down or anything when you came quarantine when you came home?
Yes. So after a month and a half in Vancouver, because I was living in Kelowna, which is about 4.5 hours inland from Vancouver.
Yep.
I was in Vancouver a month and a half, had a heap of flights cancel on me. Eventually booked a separate flight with a separate airline that went through the US, which kind of scared me, but it was the best way to get home, to go through the US. I got to Sydney, had to do 2 weeks in hotel quarantine. Luckily, it was before the cutoff point, so I didn't have to pay for it.
Yep.
And then I got out of quarantine, straight out, down to the lobby, had an Uber ready to the airport, Sydney airport, get to Perth, straight away back into quarantine for another 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was good because when I got to Perth, at that point they were pretty much all interstate travellers. They were suggesting they go into home quarantine or like book an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I luckily, he doesn't live there anymore. He just recently sold his house, but across the road from me folks, the guy who lived there, he had a granny flat, so I stayed out the back there.
Oh, sweet.
So I got fresh air, and that was nice.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like going from one of those prisons where you're locked up all the time, solitary confinement, to like one of those lower ones before you get released.
Yeah, well,
you work on a farm.
It was like solitary confinement, but with a very comfortable bed. Yeah. And then to like a prison farm where Dad used to bring me a carton of beer every second day, and Mum would come over every night with like home cooked meal, which that's nice.
Yeah, it's good you got home too.
Yeah,
people getting actually stuck.
I still know people stuck overseas.
Really?
Yeah, mainly in the UK. Because most people I know are still in Canada. They just got there, so like bugger it.
Yeah,
I'm not, because Canada's got a weird visa system where it just keeps rolling over.
Yes.
Where I think here in Australia and most other countries, if you leave, it'll pause for a certain amount of time before it starts ticking over again.
Yeah, one of my mates got fucked over. He had to come home. He was working in Whistler, and then they just sent an email saying, if you've got ways to go home type thing, do it because we're shutting down the whole resort mountain type thing.
Yeah, right.
So he came home and had to do the 2 weeks quarantine in Sydney, I think, as well. And yeah, it sounds like it fucking sucks, but at least you got home to Australia.
I what do you call it, before, because as COVID was just sort of hitting the world and stuff, and Canada was kind of, I feel like one of the last of the developed countries to sort of get hit by it. Even Australia got hit by it sooner. But yeah, I was up at Big White Mountain outside of Kelowna, which is this jumper I'm wearing is my Star Hockey jumper.
Yeah.
Just telling Tait before, I had a guy on the side of the road to go, oh yeah, and he knew he worked on that same mountain.
That is insane.
It is insane.
The chances of you meeting someone who worked at that specific spot in Canada, in Western Australia, today is fucked.
Oh, and he said he worked in the laundry, and it's like, I worked in the condo housekeeping, so I don't know who you are. I didn't know the laundry guys, but you guys, like, we were part of the same department.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was up there when I was up there. I didn't recognize him.
Small world.
But I was up on Big White just before all that went down, and the week after I got back from there, like, same thing.
Yeah.
If you can get home, get home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, but you're here now. You started to get back into comedy. So before we jump onto that, though, did you start your comedy career in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting this, but every now and then I remember it. First time I ever jumped up on a stage during comedy night.
Yeah.
It was a few years ago at Perth Fringe. I can't remember who the comic on stage was, but it was Kyle Legacy. I think he was hosting it. Don't know if you know who he is.
No.
A pommy guy. Afro, really funny.
Yeah.
But he was hosting it. Anyway, this coming on stage, he asked someone to come up on stage. I can't remember why. I think it was like, he's like, you want to come down and pull their pants down? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like so drunk. And I get up on stage, and I think he just was like expecting me to just like pull my pants and just stand there in my undies.
Yeah.
And I just like took my shirt off.
Got your dick out?
Yeah, he took my shirt off, took my pants off, turned around, and I pulled my underwear down. And it just showed everyone my ass. And he's like, oh, God, that. And then I just jumped around and showed everyone my dick.
And that's when you got Me Too'd.
Yeah, I got Me Too. But best part was I was supposed to get because it was like, if you did it, you got a free beer. And
that's all you...
I got a jug.
How tempted you are to get a free beer. It's like, yeah, I'll start an OnlyFans in real life.
I was a bit skinny then, so I wasn't afraid of getting naked.
Shit. All right, so that was your first... You delved into comedy.
That was the first time I ever went on stage, but Canada was when I first ever started to do stand-up.
So talk me through that. So was it at a comedy night? Was it at a comedy fucking venue? What was the actual place where you did stand-up? Was it a cafe?
Yeah, so it was this place in Kelowna called Dakota Sports Bar and Grill. Just what it says, Sports Bar and Grill. But out the back, they had this room, and every Thursday they did an open mic, and it was just a simple thing of go down, put your name down, and get up.
Yep. So sign-ups.
Yeah, so I'd been thinking about it for a while, a few months leading up to it, because I was picking cherries, and I was listening to podcasts all the time, and I was listening to a lot of comedy podcasts, and I've always had an interest in doing stand-up. I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's like what I always wanted to do, but I always kind of in and out throughout my life been like, I'd love to do that.
Yep.
And I just thought, fuck it, I'm in the other side of the world, I got nothing holding me back, so I'll just do it. And I went down and watched, and I was like, yeah, I'm coming back next week, I'm going to do it. Went back this next week, and I just didn't have the balls to sign up.
Yep.
So then I was like, the week after that, I was like, I'm definitely doing it. And I think that was the week of my birthday. And I was like, this is like a birthday treat for me. I'm going to do it.
What year birthday? How old were you turning?
27 or 28.
Yeah.
I'd have been turning 28 because I turned 30 this year.
Yeah. Okay.
I think. I can't remember. It was like 2 years ago.
Do you wish you started stand up? I see some of the comics now that we're doing. For the people who don't know too, and maybe it'll just come back to the podcast, I've actually moved to Western Australia. So I'm in lovely Fremantle at the moment, but we'll say Perth just for...
most of the shows are in Perth.
Yeah, so I only met you, Dan, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And now you're in my house.
Yeah.
So
Love
don't
at first
steal
sight.
anything. So I can't remember where I was going with that, but there's no real sign-ups here in...
No.
It's pretty much all...
And that was the big culture shock for me when I got here.
Yes.
You have to book everything.
Yes. But the good thing is you got a gig next week, 2 gigs, whatever it is. So
well, where I was in Kelowna, it was kind of a little bit of a special place in that regard, I think, because it's a smallish town, right? It's like probably like 150,000.
Yeah.
But I mean, the town 150,000 is going to have a very small comedy scene.
Yeah.
Perth's got like 2 million, and the comedy scene is kind of small, really.
Yeah, true.
Comedy's just a small scene anywhere you go.
But it's quite a good scene here though for how small it is.
Yeah,
It's a very professional, good crowds. They're always paid in the way of was it fucking punters come out to watch the show. It's not for free, like either paying $5 or $10, which makes them more focused on the shows.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot that I've been to are free open mics.
Yeah.
So anyone walks in and they're like, I came here to watch the fucking footy that is playing behind you.
Yeah, I think I only know one free open mic in Perth.
Yeah.
The rest are like a $5 or $10 entry.
Yeah.
But it's good because, I mean, to be honest with you, the open mic scene here, like, it's hard because compared to when I was in Canada, like, it was such a small scene, and some of the guys doing it, they've been doing it for years, and they were killers. Like, I really hope these guys make it because they're that funny. But it's kind of like, it's hard to judge because it wasn't a big city, right? Where Perth is a big city, so it's going to have a different scene. But where was I going with this? There's a good quality in the open mic scene here in Perth.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some guys who've been doing it not as long as me. Been in the Perth scene longer than me, but not doing it as long as me. Who already 2-3 years. They're gonna they're gonna be making a few $100 a week or something doing this.
That's what my point was before that I got off track. Sorry, talked about moving over here, starting to do stand up and stuff like that, and we were talking about you starting stand up at 28. I was 24 when I started, but you have now in your 2 years done more gigs than me in my fucking 6 or 7 years, whatever it is, because you've just been smashing them out.
Yeah, well, that was I'm pretty happy because I'm a big procrastinator and lazy as shit. But when I was in Canada, right, part of the reason I've done a lot of traveling is because when you're traveling, you kind of don't have anything else. There's no distractions, so whatever you want to do, you just do it, and you don't have any expectations of you, right? So I started doing stand up, and it was all I really had to do. So I just did it, and I was started off just doing like the open mic, but I think after about 2 months, Dave, who ran it, he asked me if I wanted to do this thing called Bloodsport, which is kind of like what they do at the lounge, the Gong. It's like a competition. And I did that, and then I just started doing like at least 2 shows a week, sometimes 3. There was a couple of weekends there where I would come in on a Saturday or a Friday, be on the early show, and then the spot would open up and I'd jump on that, and then there was a couple of weeks I did 4 shows in a week. Yeah, and two on the same note. And
that was Canada?
That was Canada, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll fast forward. You got through quarantine, you've done all that stuff. How long are you back in Australia before you're jumping up doing stand-up?
So by the time I got out of quarantine here in Perth, it was early October.
2020?
2020, yep. I landed a gig about a month or so after.
Were you itching to do it?
Yes.
You were doing four times a week. And then
I was going to say 2 times, but sometimes 3.
That's still substantial. So you're doing that, and all of a sudden you're in lockdown and shit.
And I'm excited too because I realised Perth,
and you're in your home country.
I'm in my home country because I think half the time I was in Canada, people didn't understand me. And then you add the fact that my jokes were terrible, so I was itching, and I got this one little spot. It was at an open mic, but it was a music and a comedy night.
Yeah, they suck.
Which I didn't want to do, but I was that itching to get on stage, and I did about a minute, and the guy running it comes up with a piece of paper and says, "Clean, please." Oh, really? And I was like, all right, okay, thanks, guys. That's all I got.
Suck my dick.
Yeah, that was my first joke. It was about sucking dick.
Yeah. And, this is how I got the gig. I had to suck that guy's dick.
Yeah. I don't tell that joke anymore because even comedy crowds don't like it.
Yeah, okay.
It's a shit joke. And I was like, so then after that, I think about it. But that was good because I think my phone had been listening to me talking about comedies, and all of a sudden comedy stuff started popping up on my Facebook and that.
Yeah.
And I then did the 51st State show up at the Craft in Northbridge in November at some point. And then it hit Christmas time, and I don't know, here in Perth in Christmas, the comedy, it's I don't know. It's like
Jolly?
No, it shuts down for a while. Or something.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know.
Okay.
It seemed like a lot of shows, open mics and stuff stopped, so I couldn't get on any. So I really first got going in January. I went to the Billabong there in Mairie, not far up the road from here.
Yep.
And then from there, just talked to people. I met some of the bookers, guys who run the other open mics. Boom, boom. And I sort of spread out. There's still a lot of shows I got to find my way onto.
Yes.
But I'm just like really shy, and I just don't like seeming like a suckhole.
Yeah.
And so I get a bit nervous about going and asking people to get on the show.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to do. I'm horrible at it, and that's why I've kind of, just been hanging out with you and being like, well, a few people.
Well,
hanging out at gigs anyway. We get along, and then by you're just hanging out, I get introduced to people, which is fine.
Yeah.
So I don't, but I'm not that type
and also,
of guy.
I think too, it helps if you get seen talking to other comics, because then if you then go up to someone and say, "Oh man, I'm looking to get a spot," they'll be like, "Oh, well, you know the other comics, so you must be a comic."
Yeah, it's a bit
not that hurts you, because still, I mean, open mics are still they're open mics. Anyone can get on.
Yeah, true. It's an incestuous little thing that like everyone knows everyone, and that's why you gotta, if you're a dick, you're gonna get found out very quick.
But I think right at the moment, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get onto, I guess, some of the more upper quality open mics that are happening, and just some other shows that are got proper guys on, but they have a couple of spots for open micers.
Yep. Yeah, you've done the Comedy Lounge a few times now in Perth and stuff like that. Yeah, I've done
it. Last 4 weeks, I've done it 5 times.
Yeah, so
which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm gagging to get on that, but Raw Comedy's
that's put a whole
spots.
Well, there's the gong still. There's the gong.
Yeah, true. Yep. How do you deal with nerves? Because I suppose you're over. I think you said you're over 50-ish gigs now, and
between 50 and 100.
Yeah,
but I feel like there's a big difference. Like that period of time between being in Canada, coming home, and
are you comfortable now?
Yeah, but I had to relearn it. Like, because I was getting pretty comfortable in Canada, even though I think now I'm a much better comic. But when I first I just had to get comfortable again, and I decided to get rid of all my old jokes.
Yeah.
I got a couple I still use.
Because they were relative to Canada?
Some of them were relative to Canada, and also it was just like fresh start. So I'll just do something new. And the best thing, when I was in Canada, it was kind of, the vibe there was kind of like you always kept trying to do new stuff, because the comedy scene there was so incestuous. It was the same people every week. Yeah,
so you had to.
You just kind of kept doing new stuff because you wanted to.
You had to.
Yeah.
Did you get much of a crowd in Canada?
Yeah. It was pretty good. When COVID come back, obviously, we had limitations the amount of people we could have. But before that, we would get at an open mic anywhere between 20 to 40 people, sometimes 50. And then on the weekend shows, we could get 70, 80 people in this small little T-shaped room, which was, you always hear about the big comics and tell you about where they always talk about where they first started. Yeah. And I'm so happy, because the place where I first started, it was this T-shaped room, and the stage was sort of where the peak of the T would be. And then the reason it was T is because there was these 2 dodgeball courts, squash courts. Oh. And like it had all curtains, because the curtains were there because behind it was glass, and all the light would come in from the squash courts. And so if you were bombing, if people were playing squash and you were bombing, you'd just hear doof, 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 like, it was so deflating.
Yeah, that sucks.
But it was a great room though, and they would get a good audience there, like all the time, pretty much, especially in the winter.
That's classic. Yeah. That is some weird shit. Talk about writing material. How do you go about writing material these days? You got a certain method? Is it jokes pop into your head and you write them into your phone? Is it you've got a half an hour every night that you put aside to write?
What I do is I get a pen and a paper, and I write in English, and I write words on a piece of paper and see what happens.
And that has been Dan Frater, everyone.
No, so what I do is I just try and write stuff on my phone, observations or joke ideas that I have, things that annoy me or things that I think are funny or things I think are weird. And then I'll just go home, get my pad and paper out, and just try and work that and see if I can make it funny. And it's annoying, because you always get the best ideas, and I'll write them down. And sometimes I don't write them down with the context of what I was thinking. Yeah,
so it'd just be like blah blah, mailman, dog, something.
Yeah,
and
like
you were
red car parked on the curb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what was
the
funny
fuck was
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time you're like, this is genius.
Yeah, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I'll just try and spitball that and keep working that. I don't know. I find writing really hard, which I know most comics, they find it super easy. It's pretty common.
I find it hard myself.
Easy. No, yeah, it's really hard to write. I'm always trying to like figure out how to write, but I just write down notes and observations, and then I'll go back through them. I got a new joke, which I think you might have heard me tell the other night, which is my first time telling it, but it just come from an observation. I was at work, and it just popped in my head, and I quickly wrote it down on my phone, and I come back to it like 2 days later, and just wrote a joke, and it's very new. It's not that great right now, but I'm it feels like I'm going to keep working it because I really think it's funny.
It's weird how you like get these little, like your little baby, and you're just like, I've got this little idea, and I want to make it grow into like a fucking adult joke.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's funny too because you get those jokes and they sort of get to that teenage part of their life and then you go, fuck them, I don't want them anymore.
Yeah. You're like, I'm sick of this fucking, it only works half the time. Yeah.
I dropped it on its head. Is there any way I can push that dent back out?
I fuck this real bad. Yeah. We were talking about like the differences, like you started in Canada, now you're here, you got rid of all your material, coming back here, fresh start and whatnot. Were you, when you came back to Australia, because our humour is pretty, you know, we can go pretty dark here. You know, cunt's a fucking term of endearment. where you'd say that in Canada and there's a fight in words.
Oh man, they don't like that word.
So you came over here. Did you feel like your stuff that I've seen's not too blue or anything like that?
No, I've cleaned it up a bit.
So did you feel like the shackles were off though when you came back and you could, you know, what's more is the PC. What I'm getting to is, have you had any dealings with? Well, I suppose
there's two questions there, and I'll what was the first one about coming to Australia and the comedy here? I'll start with that because the PC thing, I could talk about that for ages. But in regards to coming to Australia, I did feel like the shackles had come off a little bit, but not because I could say more dirtier things or raunchier or bluer or more controversial things. To be honest with you can say all that in Canada.
Yeah, it's going to be funny.
The only thing I noticed different there is that there's this myth about Canadians being very nice, friendly people. Canadians are just as nice and friendly as anyone else. What they are is they're very polite.
Yes.
That's what I noticed. So I think it's more just certain... Even then, you can start, like... They're just people like anyone else. They don't care, man.
They're just cunts.
The worst stuff I've ever said on stage, I said in Canada, and I got laughs.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes I didn't get laughs, but sometimes I got laughs.
There was probably a novelty there too. Like, the cheeky Australian.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like the guys who start, like they sometimes bring me up and just make jokes about me being an Aussie and a racist or whatever, you know, like something like that. Yeah. And then also too, because where Kelowna, you get a lot of Australians going through that part of Canada, so they kind of have a bit of an awareness of what Australians are.
Yes.
But yeah, no, for me personally, talking about shackles coming off, it was more that I knew I didn't have to really think about how I said things.
Yes.
Because people would understand me here. Where there, if I spoke too quick, or also too, because I can slur sometimes, especially if I've been drinking, but even if I'm not, sometimes I just slur and mumble my words. And I think, generally speaking, a lot of Australians do that.
Yes.
Where Canadians, just North Americans in general, are very clean and crisp with what they say. Yeah. They enunciate everything. Yeah, they have in some regards a better form of English than us.
Yes.
Not on the ear, because I don't like that North American accent that much. But
you're gonna understand what they're saying.
But they're way clearer, man. You can always tell what they're saying.
Hello there. My name is Jacob.
Yeah, unless you mean I loved it when I did occasionally meet those Canadians with the real proper stereotypical Canadians. Like, oh, hey there, everybody, how's it going? Yeah. I seen you up there and I stayed there and it was a bit of a gong show, eh?
Yeah.
I love those
gong
guys.
Show.
Yeah, gong show.
I haven't heard that in ages. Yeah. Okay, so shackles were kind of off just because people could understand what you're saying more and you don't have to think, you know, slang and stuff like that. You can use... Your vernacular is how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to change.
I would when I was writing jokes in Canada, I paid more attention to what I was writing. Yeah. Which I didn't create a better product, but because I would then have to take certain slang words out. But then I made a few jokes sometimes explaining those slang words and trying to make like little
taglines and whatnot to those.
Yeah, not pun, like wordplay.
Okay.
I'd explain it and then I'd try and do some wordplay.
Yeah. So PC wise though, have you found when you started comedy as a 28-year-old? So when I started, I was 24 and I was a fuckhead. You know, I'd say I'd say things on stage for shock value just for fun, and I'd be like, "Ooh, that's controversial. I don't give a fuck." But now there's probably nothing that I would balk at these days either. But I know that maybe tone it down because not everyone's going to be on board.
Well, shock comedy, like when I first started, I did that as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys do that, and girls and everything. Shock comedy's, I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But
it's got to be done well, though.
It's got to be done well, and objectively, I'd say it's not that funny. It's not. Like, so when it comes to PC stuff, like, I think some people think like, oh, you know, like you hear some shock comic say something shocking and people get upset and then whatever. There's a certain kind of person who does shock comedy because you got to do it right. Yeah. Because if you don't do it right, it just sounds hateful and mean, and it's even if you don't take it that way, you're just like, that wasn't funny. Yeah. But as for political correctness, I definitely think in a way it has affected the way I do comedy. Yep. I personally think for me that's a good thing because just knowing myself and the way I think and what I find funny and the way I am, it's actually, I think it's made me funnier being more aware of being a bit more politically correct. Because I think I'm funnier if I be more politically correct. Okay. That said, I'm not afraid to touch subjects. I don't give a shit. I think every subject's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't care. But I've found that if I kind of think more like for instance, like I tried doing transgender jokes. Yep. And I found that I like transgender jokes and they're funny, but I found for me, I don't know how to make it funny. Yeah. And I realized like, if I don't say it right, I'm going to offend people. They're going to get really mad. And I'm like, well, I just won't do them because I don't want to offend people just because I think it's funny. Yeah. If you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I'll never do it again, never try transgender again. Yeah. But for now, it's like, I don't think I'm skilled enough as a comedian to make a controversial subject like that funny. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, biting off those things early days too, like before you've like probably got stage presence, nerves are under wraps and stuff like that. Like, because they are issues where like, there's not many things that I say where someone would come up to me and be like, I'm offended by that. Fuck you. You're a bigot. Blah, blah, blah. No, no one ever says that to you. Yeah. They might think it, but they don't say it to you. Because you're a bigot, and they're like, oh, he'll bash me. But like certain topics like that, people will actively fight, you know. And I think like come up to you and be like, hey, that you're doing like hate speech and stuff like that. If they don't think it's funny, so it's one of those like these days it's very provocative to go that way. It's the thing of I mean I'm sure you feel the same way on this. And I think most comics feel the same way on this. Is that when you're trying to do stand-up, like me personally, my first and foremost thought is always, is this funny? I'm not thinking about, when I write the jokes, I'm not thinking about, will this offend people? I'm thinking about, is this funny? It's only once the joke's written and I start thinking, okay, I'm going to perform, I go, oh, fuck, this might offend someone. Yeah. And like me personally, I'm not too worried about offending people, but I'm at the moment more worried about getting good. Yeah. And so I'm just kind of like, I don't want to be too... I don't want to like be like, oh, I'm going to offend people because I want to get good. I want to get good so then I can start really... Then you can offend Trust me, I've got plenty of joke ideas which I know are rough people's feathers and I want to tell them. Yeah. But I just don't think I'm good enough yet to actually make them land. Yeah, okay, so it might come off not the way that you intend. Yeah, and also too, because I'm coming up, like I also want people to notice and go, he's funny. I'm going to see if he wants to do this spot. Yeah. You know, because going back to like, I'm 28, like I wish I had started this way sooner. Yeah. So same when I played rugby, I wish I had started doing that way sooner. Same with traveling, I wish I had done it way sooner. Yeah. Everything I do in my life that I enjoy, I always get into it later than I wish I had. Yeah. But what was I going to say? You'd be 60 years old trying to heroin and you'd be like, this is sick. So I look at it more because I'm like, I don't want to work for people anymore. I hate it. I want to like do comedy. I want to do something in the comedy field to earn a living. So I'm kind of just focusing on trying to get good so I can quit my job and do this full time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a long, painstakingly fucking...
So that does affect how I do my comedy a bit,
Yeah.
because I think in a way it sucks because it limits me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little bit concerned about getting somewhere with it, but
Probably the right attitude to have, though.
but I also think it's also the right attitude, because they say it's show business.
But
there's a show, but there's also a lot of business.
In a year's time, you may be doing those jokes. It's just you worked out how to make them fucking funny.
Yeah,
it's not a in 25 years' time I'm gonna start doing.
Yeah, all my favorite comedians are comedians that always have like BuzzFeed and Vice and that going, oh my god, can you believe they said that? That's all my favorite comedians. Like, I love that style of comedy.
Yeah,
and I think most people realize this, but at the end of the day, like, comics are just trying to make you laugh, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I personally ever met a comic that I feel is actually trying to like be taken super seriously.
True, and a lot of them get off stage and they're totally different to what they are on stage.
Yeah,
anyway.
have you ever met like someone who's just like a real just prick of a person in the comedy world?
Oh, so
no, just have to say names, obviously.
Not in comedy, no. To be honest, I've heard stories of my mates telling me people that are in certain circles and have done things and said things, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty fucking psycho, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like kind of like weird stuff, but not to me personally. No.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty open to people, and we'll chat about anything. And I've met people that are on stage that are wacky and zany, and then off stage they're real quiet, and you're like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like you've got this crazy persona on stage, or the opposite way, they're deadpan. And then off stage, they're like, what's going on, man? Yeah, different voice, different this.
They're like, yeah, man, sorry, I can't talk. I can do lines. Like,
yeah. So it's that's weird. But
yeah, I mean, because I only ever met one person that I said before we were talking, I have met one person in stand-up who I fucking hated.
Yeah.
This is in Canada. I don't remember the guy's name or whatever, but everyone at that club just hated this fucking guy.
Yeah. Was he good?
No.
Oh, well,
terrible.
okay.
He's like opening line on stage. He's like, I've been kicked out of like 15 comedy clubs in Vancouver. And you see the whole crowd go like, well, fucking, we don't want to listen to you then.
Yeah, you're shit.
You don't get kicked out of 15 comedy clubs for no fucking reason.
Yeah. Is comedy as fun as you imagined?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like, it sucks at times. When you have a bad show, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
But when you have a good show, it's awesome. And then, like, just now, I think I'm starting to I've made a lot of friends now in the Perth comedy scene. So I love going to shows now because I guess I get to talk to people and have jokes and stuff. And I feel comfortable being myself a bit more now than I did a few months ago.
It is one of the things I've noticed. And I can't say I was heavily involved in the Melbourne comedy scene at all, to be honest. I did a lot of regional shows and stuff like that with my Bendigo mates, which was awesome. But the comedy scene here has been so inviting. Everyone has been come up, chat. You know, it's only been, as I said, I met you 4 weeks ago or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then I've met another 10 people on top of that now, going to shows, and you don't have to pay for the shows. You just hang out the back, chat shit, talk, you know.
Well, that's the best part. I mean, the worst part is if you just go to a show to watch, all you want to do is get on that stage.
Yeah.
But the upside of that is you just get to hang out.
Yes, it is. It's just a fun environment.
Yeah.
Now, anyway, if I say something wrong, then everyone hates me.
It's funny because there's a few guys from Melbourne over here at the moment in Perth.
Yeah, it's because of COVID.
Because of COVID and stuff. But I've had a lot of those Melbourne guys say they really like the Perth scene.
Yeah. I think it's like...
Most of the people who I hear say kind of talk... I don't ever hear anyone talk down about the Perth scene, but I guess people are a little bit more realistic, going, oh, it's Perth, you know, you got to go to the East Coast. They're all Perth comics.
Yeah, yeah.
So they probably know more, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the Melbourne guys seem to really like it, and I think it's a good thing because...
The audiences are fantastic.
Yeah, but no, if you're getting the Melbourne guys coming over and they're liking it here, hopefully what they'll do is they'll bring the good side of the Melbourne comedy scene, which is like the prolific kind of like just show. Like, hopefully they'll be like, oh, let's make Perth like Melbourne. Let's get heaps of shows happening.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more shows than I ever imagined that are over here.
Yeah, more keep popping up because I think...
yeah, it's crazy.
Now that COVID's really kind of like sort of slipping away, because I think... I don't know, because I was in Canada when COVID hit, but I think COVID stopped a lot of shows in Perth. And it's even my small, short time being in the scene here, I've started noticing more shows coming up.
Yeah, especially on the weekend and stuff. There seems to be shit popping up. Like
a lot more pro shows happening.
Yeah, which is It's cool.
And it's good too because a lot of those pro shows, there's always like a spot or two for like open micers.
Yeah.
Or like more experienced open micers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting. What I wanted to chat about was you started to do stand-up comedy and stuff like that. You never know until you do something. So what are the challenges that you've come to realize? Like, you're like, fuck, I didn't realize.
You have to work hard.
Okay. So you thought,
You've got to work. I thought it'd be easy. It's not. It's hard.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there.
You have to work hard. You also have to like really look at yourself, because in order to write a funny joke, you have to be aware of who you are. Like, I think so, like one thing, I was talking to someone last night about this, and I was saying, like, in comedy, man, like being a humble person, being self-aware is like, it's like the biggest thing you hear when you ask someone, like, oh, what's that person like? It's like, oh, yeah, they're really nice, man. They're chill. It's like the most desired trait in a comic from the behind the scenes side of it. And when you do stand up, you realize there's being on stage and then there's the behind the scenes. Behind the scenes is all about networking, and because you don't do shows without the behind the scenes networking.
Yeah, there's not at the level that we're at. You're not getting messages from random people going, "Hey, I'm running a room. Would you like to come do it?"
No,
that just doesn't happen.
No,
maybe
I'm at a point where I can kind of just like get shows easily on some places because I've gone there so much and I get along with the people who run it and stuff.
Yeah,
but I don't get messages from people.
Yeah, which I'm
hoping in the next couple of months I'll start getting messages from people.
If they know you're reliable.
Yeah,
and you can come back and do it.
But that's the hard. But what actually is gonna, because you got to look at yourself in order to do your comedy, because you got to figure out who you are and what makes you funny, and then also too like for me personally, I just because I'm quite shy and stuff. Like if I don't know people, I'm shy. Once I know you, I'm like I'll give you the shits after a while.
Yeah.
But for me, like the behind the scenes networking side, it's like I'm like, okay, I have to just kind of put my shyness aside and go for it.
Yeah.
That's hard, but I hate to sell myself. Like I just got a new job. Writing a resume, man, I'd procrastinate for 2 days before I wrote it.
Yeah.
Because I don't like, I have to sit there and tell people why I deserve this job. Like, fuck off. Just give me the job or don't give me the job. Just meet me in person.
Yeah.
You know? So that's actually weirdly one of the hardest parts is sort of the networking side of it. Not because I don't like people or meeting people, but I'm just shy when it comes to the people who matter in terms of running shows and the people who are going to give you the gigs.
Yeah.
I don't like meeting comics never bothers me.
This is probably the first time that I've when I did a bit of stand up in Canada as well, in Vancouver, and it was always sign-ups. It was always sign-ups.
Yeah.
You just got there early, signed up, and you had a gig. But now it's like, well, I better go to this show, introduce myself to the room runner.
Yeah.
And then every show I've been to has been awesome. There hasn't been any shows that like I've been like, this is fucking horrible. I'm never coming back here.
Yeah.
So to walk up to people and be like, yeah, I do stand-up comedy. And they're like, yeah, I know fucking everyone in this.
I know everyone.
And then you're all just rocking up like, I'm pretty good.
Like
that's how I feel anyway. It doesn't come across that because I'm quite shy when it goes to like, I'm like, hey, I've just moved here from Victoria. That's the good thing right now. I've got like, hey, I just moved here from Victoria. It's a crutch to like.
You're a Melbourne comic? We want more of you guys. Yeah.
And then people like,
because I mean, it seems to me like some of the best comics in Australia in Melbourne.
I think and
I don't know if it's
they go there.
Yeah, they go there.
Yeah, so originally they're probably from everywhere else in Australia, but they'll just go like, yeah, I'm in Melbourne.
I mean, some of the best comics in Perth aren't Perth locals. I mean, well, no, sorry, they're all Perth locals.
Yeah.
But they're not from Perth.
Yeah.
That said, there are some good comics from Perth in Perth as well.
You did the comedy workshop at the Comedy Lounge.
Yes.
I have slagged them off in the past. I'll openly say that. But
what, the Comedy Lounge?
No, not the Comedy Lounge.
So I was just correct because I know that's what you meant, but it sounded a bit like that's what you said.
Yeah, the Comedy Lounge is awesome. Workshops in general. I've been asked to do a few of them and stuff, and I just never thought that they would get you much because I always thought like it would be weird someone trying to teach you how to write a joke when it's your style, it's your personality, it's this, it's that, and they're like, you should do this, this, and this. But what did you learn from it? You're the first person that has ever been to one that I know.
So it was funny because they had this audition thing, a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks before it actually happened. And I just went down there. No one knew sort of what was going on and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we all just went up there, and they just wanted us to just tell us a bit about ourselves. And they were going to pick like 20 out of, I think, about 60, 70 people there that day. And I went up there and just talked about myself. I didn't tell any jokes because I didn't think that'd be the right thing to do. And then after that, like a few people after me, everyone just started doing little routines. I was like, fuck, I've missed out.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting on it. And it's funny because the week before that, there was a couple of us talking about how we're like, I don't know, like this thing, I don't know, is it real? Is it legit? Like, what are they doing? And then all those people I was talking with, we all got on there. We're like, oh, awesome. I think we're all just sitting there going, no, we're not going to get on. We're not going to get on. But no, it was good. They had like some of the biggest acts in Perth come in, just chat to us, Q&A thing. I don't know if I should say names and stuff. Not that I'm saying any bad, I just don't know if I want to say names.
That's fine.
But, they had like the main booker of the Comedy Lounge, she was there. She gave a lot of...
She is a very nice lady that we both
really
met.
Awesome. She's awesome. Taylor's her name. Right?
So if you're listening, Taylor...
Yeah, if you listen, Taylor, can I have a spot?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to go to the Comedy Lounge to watch her perform tonight.
Ooh.
But yeah, and then there's the other guy, Dave Hughes, not
the Dave
Hughes, but another guy. He's kind of like pro comedy writer, and he taught us heaps about writing, a lot of stuff that I learnt from that, like journaling and logging and stuff, and coming back and using mind maps to write your jokes. And they also talked a lot about the industry side of it, which was good because that's like the stuff you really kind of have to hear. So is that
like the networking and
also etiquette and
what is what if you briefly what etiquette would
just the things like don't steal jokes.
Okay.
Honor your agreement. If you say you're going to do a show. Don't double book shows.
Yeah.
If you do have to miss a show, let them know.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get a spot, say at the lounge, and they go, and you're trying to get 10 minutes, and they go, do you want 15? Just be like, I only have 10.
Okay, yeah.
Don't bullshit them like, this is all I have.
Yes.
Don't talk shit to other bookers because, all the big bookers, they know each other all across the country. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's where your reference is going to come from.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that, and also just how to do the business, also how to structure. Like, they're just saying, just... do your 5-minute set, then do your 7, then your 10, then 15, 20, 25.
Yeah.
And then they kind of say, once you get like 35, 45, well, that's just a different ballpark. That's just a different ballpark. Because there's a certain point in comedy, it seems, where...
you go on your own.
There is no roadmap. It's really, it's like you get the luck. There's someone notice you, there's something happened. Are you Jim Jeffries, you get punched in the face?
Yeah.
Are you Bill Burr? Do you just abuse the entire city of Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Are you Bert Kreischer and you tell this really fucked up story about how you robbed your classmates in Russia and then next minute you're fucking traveling the world? Are you one of those, there seems like a certain point where you just have to get lucky. Something has to happen to get you noticed.
Maybe next time you're doing stand-up, I shoot you.
Yeah, why not? No, I want to have 20 minutes under my belt before that happens.
Okay.
But then
the next week when they book you, you're like, do 5, and they're like, well, I'm done.
But then, the beauty is in Perth, as you know, I think the next week and then the week after, we have the Raw Comedy Competition. So
yes, if we're not
that
fucking
definitely
dying.
Seems like it's a shortcut.
Yeah.
It's a shortcut if you use it well.
Yeah, I mean...
Again, it's a networking shortcut.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some different thoughts on Raw and stuff like that, but it's...
You've tried before, haven't you?
Yeah, this will be my third go. I got through
last shot.
I got through the first heat last time, which was nice. I got to the prelim final, whatever it is in Victoria, but I think it goes prelim and then state final.
I think here in WA, it's just 2 heats and then the state.
Yeah.
But if you look at the people
I think you do 4 or whatever.
If you look at the people who make it to the Raw finals, there's not always someone from WA there.
Yeah.
And at most, there always seems to only be 2.
Yeah. And I mean, it's any competition that's judged by a judge is always going to be... it's weird. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Too, I think there is... I think in WA, it seems like from what I've seen reading up on like Wikipedia and just looking at some other like local Aussie acts, it seems like if you can make WA state finals, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, at least you can
put
use
that to be, I made WA state finals.
You'll be able to get more gigs and stuff like that. But I wouldn't put any pressure on yourself at all.
I'm not. This is my first time. I'm just feeling it out, and then, I might not do it next year.
Yeah, so I did so my very first gig was Raw, which was sick. It was in Geelong, which is like 20 minutes away from my folks' house type thing. So I was 21 23 then. I was turning 24. 280 people in the audience there to see comedy, warm crowd. Went okay, like got laughs, very first gig, pretty happy with it. And was kind of like, oh, this is comedy. You know, it's fucking big crowds, making people laugh. Couple of people when I was walking to my car and stuff were like, were you just on the show? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, that was awesome.
How many
times you'd done it? And I'm like, that was my first gig. And they were kind of in shock. I was in shock.
Like, it's awesome when a comic comes up to have the show and goes, oh, that was good, or that joke was good. Like, or look, you know, that it didn't go that well, but you did something really right. And that always is great, especially if it's like a comic that's higher up on the food chain. But when, as good as that is, when a audience member comes up to you and like shakes your hand or pats you on the back, that was good. You're like,
so that was my last.
That is what you want.
My last Raw heat, I had quite a few handshakes, which I was quite happy with. But but I didn't. My layoff between my first Raw and second Raw was 6 years. You know, I was just like, I don't really mind. It was just I just wanted to get a foot in the door and see if I like comedy and stuff like that. So as long as you don't make a certain amount of money or a certain amount of gigs, and I did have such a layoff in my gigs because I'm just a lazy sack. But now
I'm sure there's
people
entering Raw that probably have earned over the amount of money.
I think there's many people that have done.
But that said, I don't think anyone going into Raw is a pro.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But there's some comics out there who you go, how the fuck did you make that money?
Yeah,
that good. Like not slagging them, but you're like, tell me how you did it because I want to do it as well. You know.
So Raw was if you can, just the Raw experience is just fun. It's just a warm crowd. Because everyone goes there to see their mates and shit, so they're quite like in the mood to see comedy. And then they say it's an amateur competition, so people go like, "Oh, we'll give them their dues." You know, I've never really seen anyone.
That's
bomb.
Something that I noticed. Do you notice with open mics or I guess something like Raw or any kind of amateur thing? I love it when the MC really puts that in people's minds.
Yeah,
because that just changes the whole night.
Yeah, because they're like, these aren't pros, these guys.
These aren't pros. And then all of a sudden people are like, okay, this might not be good.
Yeah.
And then they go, let's enjoy the bomb.
Yeah.
And that's the best part. If you bomb, but people enjoy you bombing, it doesn't make you want to go home and fucking net yourself. It makes you want to go home and write.
It's true.
Where when you bomb and the crowd just hates you, you just go home and go, should I give up?
Yes. Yeah, it's a kick in the dick. We've pretty much gone through all my fucking questions. The only one I have for you now is...
Do you have any... suck your dick.
Damn it.
He's unzipping his pants, folks.
This is...
000.
This is the end. No. Have you done any short or long-term goals for stand-up?
Oh.
Anywhere you'd want to be in a year, 2 years?
Yes, I do. I have... I don't... Yeah, I actually do. I have goals.
Would you like to share any?
I wrote down a heap of goals for me for this year. Outside of comedy, just heaps of goals for everything.
Yeah.
So the goal right now is Raw. I got that in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The goal is to just try and make it through the second heat. I almost in a way don't know if I don't know if I want to go. I don't want to get into the finals because I don't think I have enough material behind me to. Like if I kind of make the finals, I'd like to have 20 minutes behind me. I have now 7 minutes at most. But I'd like to make it the semis, so that's the main thing. Just try and make it through there, and that's like a little bit of a what's the word? Affirmation.
Yeah, okay.
Of me as a comic, and then after that, I'm looking forward to just doing a heap of new stuff.
Yeah.
And then so basically the main goal at the moment is to just try and get on more shows. Try and get on weekend shows, meet more bookers, because everyone I meet in comedy I seem to get along with. It's just the shyness.
Yeah.
And then next year Fringe Festival, I want to try and get on some shows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm going to try and host my own show because I honestly just don't think I could provide a good enough product. But I think I could work my way onto some shows, get some 5, 7 minute, 10-minute spots.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Fringe is. That just the network. It's so weird, man. When you're an open mic comic, it's like after a while, after you've done it for a while, everyone's just like networking, man. It's all about networking. Yeah. And it's like Fringes like that. And I just want to get on. Yeah, I just want to get on Fringe. That's the first goal. And then in the next couple of years, I'd like to try and do some touring, like probably just regionally around WA.
Yeah.
And then just keep trying to do the festivals. That was another thing they taught us in the workshop. There's a bit about festivals and how there's actually a difference between club comedy and festival comedy.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, they didn't teach that in the workshop. I was talking to the guy who runs it. And me and him talked about it.
Yeah.
But there's like a big difference, and there's a. It's funny because like if you're a festival comic, you might not necessarily get as well known, but there's a lot of money being a festival comic.
Yeah.
And if you like traveling, you'll spend most of the year traveling doing that.
Yep.
But yes, and then just try and start touring in the next few years, and maybe go over east. That was another thing they said too. Like sometimes what you do is, like if you want to go perform at Edinburgh, go the year before on a holiday and just meet people.
Okay. Yeah.
Just network for a couple of weeks.
Get the layout of the land.
Meet people. So then the next year when you go, hey, I'm looking to come over to Edinburgh and do a show, they're like, oh yeah, we remember that guy. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And you can get a few shows over there on those. I got a mate who went over and did the exact same thing.
Yeah. I'd like to also the Melbourne International. I'd love to get on that because apparently that's because that's this according to Wikipedia, it's the largest comedy festival in the world, second largest international. So I don't know what the fuck that means, but it's a pretty big comedy festival apparently. And then from what I've heard from certain people who are kind of know comedy industry, apparently it's the comedy festival. Apparently it's really the one where the comics really have the most fun.
Yeah, I think...
It's not necessarily the best.
Yeah.
Like, it's not Edinburgh or
Montreal,
Montreal, but apparently for comics, it's the one they enjoy the most, apparently.
Yeah. Edinburgh, I went to Edinburgh and that was fucking bonkers. Montreal would be interesting. Melbourne, I haven't actually been myself.
Montreal would be good, but Montreal's invite only.
Yes.
Edinburgh is, all the rest of them you can apply. Beauty with Melbourne, because we're both Aussies, and if you're also a Kiwi, they cheaper fees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing, apparently, after hearing that, and I was like, oh, so all these international acts, they must be coming because they fucking enjoy it.
Yes, yeah, and they get, as you said, good crowds and stuff like that, so it makes a lot of money for tourism-wise for Melbourne.
Yeah, plus Melbourne's got a lot of theatres and stuff too, so imagine some great venues there.
It's a huge place too, it's fucking like 4 million people.
It's like nearly 5. I reckon it's going to overtake Sydney in a couple of years or something.
Yeah, I'll see if COVID knocks off a few.
Yeah, probably.
That is it, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Dan Frater, do you have anything that you want to plug any? Nah, all good? No Instagram, nothing?
No, I don't. I'm not at a point yet where I have any promotional stuff. I don't know. That's another goal, is in the next little bit to figure out creating some kind of social media presence.
Yeah, it's a big thing now.
But I don't know what to do because you don't want to put your jokes up there.
No.
A lot of guys do. I see a lot of comics put their crowd work stuff up there, but
because
I don't do much of that.
It's ad-libbed. Yeah, I think just keep going how you're going and see what happens. Thank you so much for coming on.
No worries.
Do
it again and we'll get fucked up.
Yes, we'll talk about your travels.
Talk about travels, yeah.
And maybe your Raws in a few weeks, so we could do a quick debrief on that and stuff.
That's a nice idea.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 27 with Dan Frater. Goodbye, motherfuckers.